Hi, everyone. We're going to be kicking off our next event in 5 minutes. So let's all get seated and situated, and we'll get started shortly. Welcome, everyone. This is day 4 and a live breakthrough session for I Don't Believe in Astrology. While we all get seated and situated, tell us in the chat where you're tuning in from and how many sessions you've joined us for so far. This is our 11th session in this event series. So I'd love to see those numbers pop up. All 11. Wow. Yes. 9, 11, 6, 10. Do we have anybody new in here joining us for the first time right now? 1. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much to all of you out there for being here with us. Remember that no matter how many sessions you've joined us for so far, each one in this event series builds upon the next. So be sure to join us for as many as you can. And if you can't join us live, you'll be able to catch up via replays posted in our Come Study You course at the end of each day. Let's go over some quick housekeeping items. First, please be sure right now that your chat settings are set to everyone, not just hosts and panelists. Also important, if our emails land in your junk folder or promotions folder, be sure to move them into your primary inbox and add info@deborahsilvermanastrology.com to your email contact list. And if you're joining us live outside of Zoom, welcome, hello. Please make sure you're tuning in to join us at IDBIAlive.com to fully engage in this experience on our watch page. Also, a friendly reminder to everyone that this event is being recorded and a limited time replay will be available for you in the I Don't Believe in Astrology Come Study You course. If you have questions, feel free to post your question in the chat and a member of Team DSA will do their best to respond to you in the chat. For those of you on the replay, you can comment in Come Study You, or you can bring your question to the next live. If you have a technical question or need support, you can also email our support desk at info@deborahsilvermanastrology.com. And remember, the more you share and participate, the more entries you'll get towards winning one of our amazing prizes, like a reading with Deborah, a reading with a DSA certified astrologer, or a spot in level 1 of applied astrology. And when you're joining us for our live breakthrough sessions or catching the replay, we'll be sharing a secret code that will earn you 5 additional entry points when you enter that code on our giveaway platform. The link to the giveaway tracking site is found in your I Don't Believe in Astrology live Come Study You course. Winners will be announced on our special live virtual celebration taking place on Tuesday, April 8th. So here's how each day works. We'll meet here again live today at 1 p.m. Pacific, which is 4 p.m. Eastern. Then tomorrow, we'll start at 8 a.m. Pacific for a Wisdom Watch Party. And then at 10 a.m. Pacific, we will have our final live breakthrough session for this event series. In each live breakthrough session, we'll start with an immersive meditation and prayer. Then we'll go over the day's theme before we jump into a conversation with our guests. Afterwards, we'll lean into elemental and astrological medicine, then invite a lucky volunteer or two to join Deborah live for an astrological laser session. Visit your Come Study You course for even more event details and replays. You'll only have access to this course for a limited time unless you've opted for our VIP upgrade. All right, and now the part that everyone gets excited about, volunteer sessions. So during our laser astrology sessions, you'll have the opportunity to work live with Deborah and your chart as a volunteer. Please use the raise your hand function in Zoom and enter your birth date, exact time, and location. And a member of Team DSA will reach out to you so Deborah can call on you later during the laser astrology sessions. We will select a few of you to potentially work with Deborah live. Getting selected does not guarantee you'll be called up, but we will strive to get to as many of you as we can. Once the meditation starts, submissions will be closed. When you're chosen to come on screen to work with Deborah, Shauna from Team DSA will bring you on to video. Please make sure to press the button to accept the Zoom invite as a panelist. During the transition, you may see a black screen or it may look like you're getting disconnected, but please know you're not being kicked out. You're just getting moved into a different role on Zoom. So for those of you who really resonate with today's theme of being a channel means letting go of your ego, how do you do that? Now is the time to have your birth information ready and raise your hand if you'd like to be selected as a possible volunteer participant. Okay, thank you for sticking with me while I went over those details. Now, before we get started, let me give you a brief introduction to Deborah. Deborah has been a psychotherapist and astrologer for nearly 5 decades, from having a private practice to running a full-blown astrology school. Deborah created this event series and her new book because she wants to show you how astrology can change how you see yourself, the people in your life, and the world around you. So without further ado, please welcome Deborah Silverman.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, Lisa. Here we are again. I see some of you are new, some of you have been to all the different sessions. I just want to start by saying thank you. I'm going to be thanking the guys that are coming today. I was just reflecting and meditating and realized there's such beautiful men that are coming into this event. We saw Mark and Colette and the beautiful devotion he had to her. We saw Garen and Blair and his beautiful devotion he had to his wife. It was an amazing experience to see and hear men who are in such rapport with their female side. But it doesn't necessarily require a woman for a man to be in rapport with his female side. And today we're going to have two men speaking who are, it's so interesting having studied their charts, the level of openness that they carry. Both of them have a gift of being receptive, and that's very feminine. And so we have to be careful right now on planet Earth because there's so much, I'm just going to move so that picture is so beautifully seen. There's so much judgments that are going on in the polarization of men to women. We hear women when they're alone talking about men. We hear men when they're alone. I don't know how much they talk about women, but there's an undercurrent. Certainly the Republicans and the Democrats in America, I think in every government system, there's this thing called polarization. Oh, that's right, the sun and the moon. They represent the polarization that exists in the dualistic world that we are all promising to live in. There's no option. So in the name of duality, the classical story is someone's mad at someone, someone misses somebody, someone's opposite the other, someone's fascinated by someone, someone falls in love with someone, someone falls out of love with someone. It's a very universal song that it goes across the screen. It's amazing to me that the human condition hasn't yet discovered what's in my book, which is called The Observer, to stop and get out of the duality and out of the projection of the male or the female or the need for romance or the need for connection. At first, it becomes the need for connection with the self. And today, what you're going to hear about is there's two men who are here who are channels. You're going to hear from them. And this is the conversation. This is my favorite day. I think I may have mentioned it's my favorite chapter in the book. It's where we come off the planet. It's an astrologer's dream. It's called the 13th sign. We come off the planet, even out of the chart, even away from the 12 distinctions of the characters that we are all living in. And we let ourselves actually come into the place where God or spirit or the angels live or where your higher self lives. And by aligning with that energetic, you become the vehicle or the vessel or the doorway or the channel or the gift of neutrality, of objectivity that liberates. And all it takes is just a pause. I can see you guys are so excited sending us your birth dates. It's so sweet. And that you're busy typing and you're busy. That is the nature of the human mind. And we're going to do a meditation soon where the 13th sign is a concept to start with that asks us to say to our mind, as we're all going to do here in a moment, take a seat. And what the 13th sign is the driver's seat. It's the command position of your higher self. It's the command position of the awareness that lets you have some options. Because when we're not aware and we're on automatic and we're reactive or we're following or we're rebelling or all that behavioral, impulsive, instinctual human animal nature shows up, thank God we have an appetite. Thank God we know how to laugh and know how to cry. These are all the instinctual, wonderful gifts of being human. And then there's this one spot where we come off the stage as part of an audience. I often think of the observer when I'm watching a movie and it's a really intense scene. I will turn around and look at the audience just to step out of the consensus group think so I can liberate myself for a moment into the awareness that this is just a dream. It's very interruptive. It's very alternate. It's not normal. It's what happens when people take sacred medicine. When they take this, whether it's ayahuasca or it's psilocybin or it's ketamine or it's MDMA, all of it gives us the gift of getting high. It's rising up, stepping back and realizing, wow, we're in a really vulnerable time right now. The human condition is not in a comfortable zone. It doesn't matter what the politics are. It was going to happen anyways. It didn't matter who got elected in what country. And this was going to happen. It's called the Kali Yuga. How many of you know about this? There are very large cycles brought to us by the Hindus that run at 26,000 years. And we are at the tail end of a Kali Yuga, which is called this particular Kali Yuga, that's another word for era, was called the era of forgetting. So we forgot that we came down here with a volunteered position to take on the human experience and absorb the karma brought to you through your chart, through your past lives, and you just forget. It's like duh, like we really do have a bad case of forgetfulness. And then some of you in this room right in front of us are waking up. This is my job. I was born the year of cock-a-doodle-doo. One of my jobs this life, and the two men we're going to hear, is to wake up an alternate point of view that sets the stage for another, just what Barbara Streisand sang about. Somewhere there's a place for us. And it's coming soon to your neighborhood, but in order to make the transition, notice that everything's breaking. The simple agreements that used to be true at the government level or in your family structures or in the nature of marriage or the nature, all these structures that were built for stability are in the tarot deck. We call that the Tower card when the whole world starts to shake. And the tarot deck is the arc story of evolution. And right when the Tower card comes, right after it, that's after death and after the devil and after all the hardship, then comes the sun, the moon, and all the positive, the star. We get to the spiritual realm, but not without the human condition breaking. So please don't mistake your personal story. You're going to be watching during this event these unbelievably cool people yesterday with Emily and Donette, these incredible women that were off the charts fire. And then you met with different characters each time. To this morning with the rabbi from Israel who was in Jerusalem, who spoke about his incredible love. He is Moisha, I'm doing a shout out to you. What a beautiful being. I've collected, I have a magnet in my belly button, in case you didn't notice. I've drawn all you in here and I drew the coolest people so I could inspire you to think that sometime, somewhere, we're going to change the narrative of the human condition. And the two men that are coming in today are both channels who have the openness to reduce their ego to get to the 13th sign and begin to be a vessel for something beyond the human. So I'm asking all of you, I'm really sincere about this. I think what happens is we idealize those people that come on the screen that have been given the karma or the dharma, like myself, to speak, but I'm not any different than you. And that's what my book is about. I don't believe in astrology. The whole first half is rewriting the identity of the ego mind who thinks something is wrong. Nothing's wrong. The world was going to crack. This is this visual of the chart behind us. The world is on fire. You can't see it because the lighting's not there. But as the earth cracks, she knows how to stay in the position of, I've got you. I'm holding you. You're safe. So I want you all to hear that. Yes, we are on a breakdown. Yes, we are at the changing of the guards. Yes, there's a Kali Yuga going. Yes, the Hopis talked about this. Yes, it's been brought to us by so many cultures across time, including the Hindus who talk about Kali Yuga, including the astrologers of the times now. So don't mistake something's wrong. In fact, in the tarot deck, the very last card is the world. It's better known as Saturn. And what Saturn says, and this is what we're going to look at today with both Richard and with Zach, is their Saturns. What was the life lesson? This is in my book. It's just one simple topic that you will have to find out by looking at what year you're born, and it's in my book. What was the life lesson that you came in with this lifetime that you promised you would contribute to the ending of this era without mistaking something's wrong? What would you have to do internally? Was it emotional. Saturn was in water. And you're going to have to learn, one of the two men have this one, how to deal with the emotional feelings of not being human or not feeling connected or not having kids or not being married or all that emotional content that creates this negative trap doors called something's wrong with me. Or do you have an error and you can't get relationships to last and you have a crazy mind that tickles you and loves to watch seminars and goes on webinars and lives in cyberspace, but you can't get it to stay focused when nothing else is happening. So meditation for you is impossible. That would be air people. They need stimulus because they don't know how to do quiet. And as a result, they find themselves a little bit anxious. That's the life lesson of Saturn and Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius. And then there's people with Saturn and Earth. You're so grounded and you're so practical. It's Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. You feel like you're always getting it wrong. You're not making enough money. Your work isn't helping you. You want to be able to take astrology, but you don't have the funds. And you have a broken record around stability and safety and security, and it's driving you nuts. Those are the people that need to realize it's okay. You're right on schedule. And then Saturn and Fire, we met yesterday, these people that are so bold and so loud and drink too much and party too loud. And they, or one of our people today that we're going to be interviewing, or they don't want to be bossy and pushy and demanding, and they don't want to stand up and be counted because if they don't want all the attention, they don't want their ego, or their ego's out of whack and it's like the drama. You all know who you are without the language. This is why you buy the book. Because if you don't know where your Saturn, just a simple piece like that, we spend a whole bunch of time in our school on this conversation because the destiny line that once you figure out what the teaching was, what your lesson was, and you come to peace with it, then you go to the 13th sign and you're like, why do I feel so good about myself? That's what I want for all of you. I want all of you to be able to say, I realized in this book launch that Deborah did, the free gift she gave us for days of listening to these wisdom keepers, that wow, nothing's wrong. It's just my internal dialogue. And yes, I do have some areas to refine my ability to meditate, my ability to do relationship and friendships and be really honest that I need people, my ability to enjoy work and whistle and really get off on it and stop complaining, and my ability to accept that I'm a little loud and excited and blunt and oh my goodness, it's okay. How'd I do, you guys? We're going to do a meditation. Is that true?
That's true, Deborah. We'll do a 3-minute meditation.
Okay, I love that she's timing my meditations. Let's just close our eyes. It's the sweetest thing. Bow your head. Take a deep breath in your own rhythm. Hold it at the top. And breathe out awareness. Let's fill up our space with awareness. That simply means that we stop time. We dropped into the now. We're aware of the simplicity of this moment, the privilege of being in a group of unified energy that's all liked mind, that all want to say the same thing. Help me to fall in love with who I am so I can be a vessel for the Creator and know how to put my ego in its seat. I want you all to imagine to the left of you is a chair. Put your mind over there. And now take a deep breath when you're ready in your own rhythm. And settle into the now, just here in your mind, here and now. Let's just start with here and now. Here we are. We have a moment right here called here and now. Let your face relax. Let your eyes relax. Taking deep breaths whenever you feel the impulse, consciously breathing like the dolphins do. These beings that smile and make love all the time, they're invoking the ability to consciously breathe. Such a gift. We stop time, we bow our heads, we gather the beings in the center of this world that sit inside cyberspace today. We are in a world. We're in a new world. We're on a bridge between the old and the new, and it's your gift to be the bridge maker, the one that walks across and says, follow me. Each one of you, by your own example and your own story, believe it or not, are a leader. You have the power to tell your mind to have a seat, to come back to center, have a seat inside of yourself, inside of your heart. to remember that you're a spiritual being who bows her head to those we cannot see and asks and prays and says, help me, teach me, I'm open, I'm available. In times of old, we'd sit on our knees in a church and bow our head. It's such a beautiful posture. Humbled are we that know how to put our minds aside, drop into our hearts, consciously breathe, and ask and pray to be of service. Help me to remember I'm in love. I am loved. I am love. Help me to remember the truth of my identity. I wanted to be here. I accept my reality in this instant exactly as it is. I deeply breathe into the truth of this moment. So I enter the here and now, magic is available. We're going to open our eyes and we're going to have a session today where you're going to witness with your eyes closed still. You're going to witness two beings, three, including me, who have all said yes to their purpose. They signed up. They were devoted, creative, and they're just like you, ready and willing to be of service at the highest level. May it be so that you've taken on this responsibility of committing to your higher self, and your guides are watching, and just say to them, yes, take over my life. I'm all yours. And so it is. Aho. So beautiful. Slowing it down, slowing down time, coming into the here and now, naming it. This is the here and now. It's all we've got. Our imagination has the past, which we reshape whenever we tell a story. It's hardly 100% true. And the future is waiting for us. It's already been written. There's so many people that dream into the future and see things before they happen. We're on a time spectrum where the here and now is our best friend. It's the one thing we know for sure, right here and right now with you in this room. I love it. There's almost 800 people in here and we're all in devotion. Thank you so much for carving out the time. Thank you for hearing my soul's call, which was to write a book that was helping astrology come to the masses. And you picked up the mantle and said, yes, I'll help, Deborah. And you know, buying the book early, we're going to definitely hear this from these two men because they've both written books, and Zach has one coming out. There's such a big commotion that's made about the New York Times bestseller, getting yourself on the top of the list, and that's an ego goal. That's when your eyes are open and you're looking at numbers and you've got yourself in comparisonitis. And at the same time, the function of that ego identification is so that more souls will find astrology and find the belief and the faith in that truth. The sun's coming up, the moon's moving in perfect increments. It's in Gemini today. It's completely trustworthy across all time. I can trust astrology. You can trust us. That is the beginning of faith. And today, in order to be a channel, in order to let the ego be opened, you have to know it's safe. So I just want you to hear inside of yourself right now, I'm safe. Sitting in this room with almost 800 people, I'm safe. Okay. Take it away, Lisa.
Let's welcome up our guests, Richard Rudd and Zach Bush.
This is so exciting. I can't even believe these two men are in the room at the same time. How did that happen? It's called cyberspace.
I have no idea.
I love it. I love it. It's so good to not know. So first of all, I want to just let you all know these are two legends. I was meditating on you guys this morning, both contributing to the collective and the zeitgeist in ways that will never be the same. And when they met, they had a bromance. We're going to hear about that. There's nothing more special than watching two men fall in love. It's one of my favorites. I just get so off on the possibility that in the future, there will be this unbelievable transcendent nature of friendship that will recognize each other immediately, which is what happened to you two. I want to hear the story. I think there's several versions of this. who's going first. But we're not going to introduce these two giants. As the story goes on, you're going to figure out what they do. Who's going to tell us how you guys met?
Go on, Zach. You start. I'll jump in.
Difficult to keep it PG here, but the connection that Richard and I
You
have
got to
had.
talk a little louder, Zach. It seems like your microphone's far.
Interesting. I'm not far away. I'm right here, just for the record.
Okay, there we go.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So yeah, Richard and I met I don't know, a couple years ago, and it was through a mutual colleague that brought us together. I was doing a podcast with Blue, an incredible kind of priestess energy out of Los Angeles, some years back. And at the end of it, I was like, what would be really fun is if Richard and I did a podcast together with you. And she was like, oh my gosh. She was like, we are going to do that right now. And so within a couple of days, she got in a hold of Richard, who'd done podcasts with her as well. And she came up with this beautiful dream, and we went and had this outdoor event with
I was there.
100 people. Yeah, you were there, and we got to see 100 people outdoors in an epic location up in Big Rock Canyon, which has now burned to the ground. The house that we were in and everything else is just ashes now, and so it's an extraordinary moment because they had just finished the house. They had been building it for 4 years, and then we were one of the first events with the property finished, and now it's gone. And so it's an interesting thing that I'm now working on a film project and a redesign of the LA area that's with Azri and Ben, whose house that was. And so in some strange way, I think Richard and I fell in love in that journey together. The night before we did the podcast was the first time we were in person together, and I think that it's something about these epicenters of human love. When we fall in love with each other, we create a magnetic moment for not just the humans, but for a cosmic experience to be had. And that's where your astrology piece comes in, is we really are being moved by the celestial bodies in the universe. We are columns of water. And one of the big influences in my life is my rabbi. That's a incredibly deep wisdom keeper in the Kabbalah, and he has been teaching me for the last year many things. But one of the things that the Kabbalah holds is that humans have absolutely no free will, and it is because the complexity of the forces within the universe are so of such incredible magnitude in every direction that every electron, every atom is part of this grand symphony, and there's no single atom within that space that can suddenly make a free will decision to go a different direction. Everything is in a symphonic self-expression of God itself. And so this is how things move. But humans have the unique ability to decide how they're going to feel about the experience of their journey. And so while we may have free will as to what the journey is, we have infinite free will to experience the journey as we will. And the love that I feel around Richard is such a good example of that. If you tune in and you stop thinking about it as like, oh, we're going to do a podcast with his colleague, and like you said, maybe that'll grow followers or numbers, and there'll be a event. Instead, if you just tune into the frequency of, I want this to have its highest expression, then you get the experience that Richard and I had that night. And you mentioned in our little meditation there that time stops, and every time Richard and I have gotten together in person, time has stopped for me. And the longest night that I've ever had, the longest sunset I've ever had, was with Richard on the coast of the UK. We shared a sunset walk that went for 5 hours. The sun literally set 3 times. I watched the sun go down, the colors, and then minutes later, like, the sun is right there going down again. And we watched this thing evolve on this coastline as we walked this thing. And it was like we were caught up in this cosmic reprogramming of nature as had timelines colliding, and all of this was the experience. And we had the most exquisite meal that any humans have ever shared. And we were on this picnic bench overlooking the ocean from Devon, and it looked like a shanty shack of a thing that you might get an ice cream cone at. And we walked in there, and this young kid behind the counter looked at us, and we said, "Hey, you got any actual food?" And he looked at us and he said, "You know what? are you willing to have the best meal you've ever had in your life? And Richard and I looked at each other and smiled. I was like, well, that's not what we were expecting. And we said, yes, that would be magnificent. He's like, all right, do you trust me? And we were like, well, why not? And so we went and sat down, and he gave us a couple beers, and we sat on this picnic table. And maybe 45 minutes later, half an hour later, they come out with a platter in 2 arms that is piled with the most magnificent display of seafood you've ever seen in your life, and these giant chunks of homemade bread that were torn apart and kind of put in clumps around this giant pile of seafood that they'd pulled out of the ocean that morning. And it was the best meal I've ever had. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that I was staring into this guy's eyes, and we had an opportunity that day to share stories and visions that had come through us, as individuals that we had never shared with anybody else. And those are the kinds of love affairs that I hope all of you experience. They can happen in a single evening and will give you more love in your life than, long-term relationships can ever offer in some ways, because the universe is participating. The planets aligned that day, and we felt the love of the cosmos coming through. So those are some of my brushstrokes when I think about my love affair with this man.
Richard, I can't wait to hear your side of the story. Brought me to tears. But this is the future. You guys are both from the future. I'm just going to say that as the astrologer in the group. They're from the future and they're working backwards. And in the future, every moment will carry magnetic powers that resonate after it's over. So you recall it with such an emotional charge. We live so fast and we live so shallow, but not these two. Okay, go, Richard. I want to hear yours.
Yeah, well, it's like, it doesn't happen with that many people in one's life. And, and it's like the veil parts, and then I guess you kind of get a holiday from samsara, if you know what I mean. So like you're given this gift of grace, and that was what happened with us. And I remember, Zach, we were sitting on the way back. We were sitting on this little bench up on the sea, and we were looking over watching the sunset. And the bench was quite a high bench, and our legs were like dangling off it. And I'm really tall, and we were sort of like, we suddenly became little boys, and I guess we had all this incredible seafood in us, and it was quite hallucinogenic, and we were like 2 little boys looking at the sunset, and that's the quality of the love that I felt, and I still feel, that we were like little boys in a romance, in an adventure, in a high romance, of like epic proportions. And then we did the Medicine Festival, which is a festival we did last summer, which is a beautiful festival with incredible people in a really amazing location in the UK. And we had these little tents next to each other that they provided, and there was just rows and rows and rows of these beautiful canvas tents. And I'm a very early morning guy. I wake up early and I drink little kind of Chinese tea and little ceremonies, and I do it whether I'm alone or whether anyone comes. And I invite a lot of people, and I say, look, I'll be there at 5:30 or something. You want to come, just come. Sometimes people come, sometimes they don't. Anyway, Zach was like he came straight out of his tent at like 5:30, and he was there. He said, right, we ready? And I went, yeah. And we sat there, we were looking at all these lines of tents. And I remember you said, Zach, God, it's like being in Prince Caspian, that film. And these are all the warriors before the battle, and these flags were flickering. And it was just it was like more of that kind of the romance, and I think that that's actually what's happening more on this planet, that, what is breaking through. Especially you were talking about the tower, and as the old crumbles, what's coming up in between the cracks is the high romance, because we get to really embrace the shadow, we get to really love being here. It's no longer about us escaping, getting to nirvana, up and out. We leave the body, we try and escape. It's about now, let's bring the romance here. Let's be here. Let's be embodied 100% in our bodies. And that's also been a deep part, of because you never know when you're with like some great teacher like Zach, and I'm meeting him, and it's like, I wonder what he's like. Does he drink alcohol? Does he? Because I'm a bit naughty, I'm a bit of a naughty person, and when you ordered like a couple of beers, I was like, oh, excellent. It's just gonna be easy.
A bit naughty.
We can just be normal, and I love that. I love that about our relationship, our friendship. It doesn't, it means that we can kind of take homeopathic doses of anything that this planet offers, without it being excessive, and that's the romance for me. It's where you just get to taste, and we had this fantastic experience of walking through these fields of tents, when everyone was up, and then all these people would sort of like recognize us, but it would be like, oh, I think these are yours, because they look like your fans. And then Zach would just get caught in one of his hug kind of,
And it's like deep.
hugathons. So I just say, look, man, I'm just gonna go. You catch me up. And we just had such a laugh. Yeah. So I think it's about romance.
Totally. You made your point. It's such a love. We're all falling in love. There's sunsets and there's love and there's romance, and we're looking across time and we're remembering all the details because we couldn't forget how meaningful that moment was. That's how you know you're present. So that brings me to my next question. Both of you, now we just got to tell the audience, because some don't know who you are. Let's just back into this. So Zach Bush, Dr. Zach Bush, I'm looking at your chart. Of course, I have the cheat sheet. And one of the common denominators of all three of us is we all have Sun in the house of Scorpio, which means all of us have an 8th house Sun. And that describes people that love the topic of death, love the topic of transformation, love being around people in the scariest moments of their lives, love getting alone and deeply reflecting when no one's around so we can finally hear the sounds of silence. That's all three of us. But meanwhile, we're on a Zoom call in the middle of the room, going to share our inner secrets. Tell me, I'm curious, Zach, about your career. If you had to address the topic of depth and or death and or this meaningful sense that you carry as far as your destiny, if you could just, and I know you've got the gift of Aquarius rising, you can talk. I'd love to, because we're talking about the 13th sign, which is a term I made up, not the 13th sign as in NASA, but the 13th sign that takes us out of the human condition into the receptivity that allows our channel to be used, which is what we see with blue. Blue is a walking channel. It's also true with you guys. So if there's a way, Zach, that you could describe in terms of your career, because I know this has been facilitated by your destiny line, the quality you have of receptivity or the ability to deal with the topic of death or the letting go. Good luck with that. I gave you a wide breath. Go.
My first take on death is rebirth. There is no such thing as an endpoint in nature, and that's fascinating to watch under microscopes. So my background was a medical scientist, cell biologist, went into medical school, became a medical doc. All of that began in some ways in birthing. And so I was going into engineering originally, and then decided to take a year off after I got my heart broken by my first girlfriend. And as dramatic as a 19-year-old could be, is like, woe is me. I need a year off to recover from this experience. And so in the moments that I decided to do that, an aunt called, and she'd been living in the Philippines a long time, and she called up and said, "What are you up to?" I said, "Taking a year off." And she said, "Well, come work with me in the Philippines with this group of international midwives and come birth babies." I was like, wow, that sounds like an adventure. So I ended up doing that, and in birthing babies over there, that got me interested in medicine as a trajectory, and would stick with that over the years. And that would be bookended by my last subspecialty. So I went in internal medicine, which was a lot of deaths. So I was running ICUs in the hospital setting there, and so I was, every night on call, I would, be trying to resuscitate people who were actively dying, and so I was, shocking their chest and putting in big tubes in their neck to infuse drugs and putting them on breathing machines and all kinds of dramatic technology and all this to try to stave off death. And in that journey started to really be in wonderment of the quote unquote unsuccessful cases that actually let go, because there was quite a few times when they would actually suddenly come back. And so I got to start to see near-death experiences in real time. And that started to shatter my whole worldview in my spiritual worldview, my biologic worldview, everything was crumbling the more I experienced this, and the more I realized that people's identity was permanent phenomenon. They could leave the body, they could go adventure in the solar systems, galaxies, see God itself, come back into the body, and at no point did they leave their self-identity. At all times, it was the I am. I did this, I saw that, I was there, and then I went there. I was over there, I talked to my grandmother, I talked to my dead son, I talked there, and I am back here to tell you that everything is perfect. I am light, I'm there. So I heard that day after day in the ICU settings. I heard it from 18-year-old children dying of cancer. I heard it from 80-year-olds dying of some strokes. I heard it from, people who didn't believe there was God. Like, I see every walk of life, and you realize this is the ultimate transformation that we're waiting for. And then the intrigue got deeper of, what if we could do that without dying? What if we could actually come to that moment of singularity without letting go of the body? And so that got exciting. So I did another subspecialty in endocrinology and metabolism. What if I could figure out disease before it was killing the person in the ICU? And what if I could start up there? So that was my beginning. And then my third subspecialty was in hospice and palliative care, which is, of course, end of life care. So I went deep into death with that. And there I was admitting 80 patients a week to die for 4 years. And so you can imagine the volume of death you're seeing at that point. And every single time I was recognizing, this is not an endpoint, this is not an endpoint, this is not an endpoint, and started to get more and more conviction of, I want to go play at the possibility of killing people in the body. I want to take people to the point of death. Ego death is one concept, but it has to be deeper than that. I need to kill everything that they believe so that they can become themselves. Because ultimately I learned over the years that we are an amalgamation of external roles as humans right now. We have forgotten the whole process of becoming human right now is to forget yourself.
Exactly.
Your source. And so death is this beautiful journey into remembering self. And in that remembrance, we have an opportunity to become extraordinarily powerful in our capacity to manifest the will of the divine, to play in this space of nature evolving through us, the hands of the divine expressing the beauty of itself. And it would do so in a human so that it could see the beauty. And so that's the remarkable thing about being human, is we are divided from our sense of singularity differently than a bird or an elephant that are still kind of in that non-egoic space of total connectivity. They can't witness the beauty in the same way that we do in our isolation behind this egoic veil. And so I'm in that space of really trying to push humanity into these death moments. And that's where we're doing these immersive experiences for 7 days at a time to see how many times can we die to ourselves in a single day, let alone in a week. And if you get good at that, then you never die. And you're ultimately realizing there is no end point of me, and I'm going to continue to ascend with every single death rebirth.
This is so Scorpio, Mercury and Scorpio and Sun, and you're such a Scorpio. That was so 8th house Scorpio. Can I just put a big sign up? But now Mr. Richard Rudd, who has literally 5 planets in the 8th house of Scorpio, I don't know how you're going to match that because you don't have as much air as he does, but let's hear what you want to say.
Well, I guess for me, it's been about seeing beyond the veil. And for whatever reason that I was gifted those experiences, in my life, huge experiences of illumination, spontaneous without any kind of medicines or anything. And lasting, considerable amounts of time, like days at a time, and enabled me to kind of remember the fractal mathematical nature of the cosmos. And exactly what Zach was saying about the Kabbalah, I had that same knowing in my cells of the perfection of the choreography and the harmonics of the creation that we live in, even right down to the ugliest parts of it, the most horrendous. Like, I could even see the perfection of the algorithms of the shadow consciousness, and so everything was like within this huge compassionate rose of the heart and love. And so death was included in that very, very strongly, and same for me. Like, there is that death is birth, so even like think of the very first breath you take as you come in, and then the very last breath you take as you leave. That's one breath. That's actually it. So our life is the pause between those breaths. And then that last breath we take is completely connected to the next in-breath we take in the next incarnation. And in my journeys into the kind of fractal cosmic universe, and particularly through the Gene Keys work that I've done, which is very much mapping all of these algorithms of consciousness, I really saw one day the kind of the mechanics of incarnation itself. I just saw this perfection of the streaming in of souls, and that are really one soul kind of emanating in all its different patterns, and time bending so that you would enter into like states of deep time where you could see where your memory goes forwards as much as it goes backwards in time. So you could remember the future, and you could remember all your future incarnations. You could remember the future of humanity. And that was an experience that I had. I remembered the future of humanity. I was given the view through the future human. And a story I told with Zach called The Final Father, which was like the very final human being left on this planet. When everyone's ascended, there's this one father left. He's the father of the human species. And the primordial mother is the one right at the beginning. And so there's this, and we're in this, in this stage of the yugas and the changing, and the, we're right in the middle here and in the juicy part of the awakening. But yeah, it's like, so for me, that is just, there's only birth. In a way, you could say there's just, all the universe does is keep giving birth in deeper and deeper and deeper iterations. So the death thing is just birth. So it's like, are you glass half empty or glass half full? I'm like, birth. It's just birth. Everything is just a new beginning. It's an endless cycle of new beginnings within beginnings within beginnings. It's like it's eternal springtime, and that is, for me, the state of awakened consciousness. When you're experiencing eternal springtime in your being. So that's I guess that's my take on.
You look like a little bit like an imp, like you ate the cherry, you got something's got your eyes all sparkling, because I think when you recognize that spring is everywhere, that's the feeling of falling in love.
Yeah.
And that's what I see that in both of you. So the Gene Keys brought to you by Richard Rudd, which has gotten so popular, coming through a vision beyond the veil. And then Zach Bush noticing through the practice of death, having seen enough of that to realize this is an illusion. This is what my last chapter, it's my favorite chapter of the book, where I just say, would you stop reading about your ego? What do you think people do when they get an astrology book? The same thing with the Gene Keys. They look up their own first. Whoop! They open the book right to Scorpio or right to Virgo. And then the question has to be posed, hold on a minute, who's opening up the book? How do we reduce our identity with our ego identity to the one that's actually being utilized by life itself? We're a vehicle. So it makes me, I don't know why it tickles my heart and makes me laugh. As soon as my observer's on and I'm in this frequency, it tickles me.
That's an important point, and I think it's one of the reasons why I like the title of your book, in that I think that the West is so classically designed and prone to reductionist thinking about any system. We have turned yoga into a social event instead of an age-old, spiritual, intelligent pursuit.
It's so, I want to just focus. That's so interesting. I have this favorite line that yoga was once a very strange practice in North America. Nobody knew what it was. If you guys remember, this was a time when we'd see people looking like a pretzel and go, what are they doing? And then it turned into $1 billion industry. And everywhere you go, in every city you go, they're on the streets of every corner of every street. And you know what my dream is? The same thing will happen to astrology, where astrology wasn't believed. And there was so many people that thought this thing was an old, ancient parlor trick, and now all of a sudden we're bringing it back to the masses and considering that, just in case you didn't know, this entire system's being run on a cosmic. I love the image, Richard, you gave, that is so interwoven that once you see it from that angle, and this is the gift of doing the spiritual practice of meditating or reading the Gene Keys or listening to Zach Bush, any way you can go to hear these two get you, the elevator effect of coming up and out of the drama of your story because they are living legends who both are in love with the other side. We're making the bridge between those worlds to be able to be the channel that lets the other world come through without resistance. So I'm asking all of you in this room, how willing are you to let your ego soften and activate your higher self or your receptivity or that soft focus? I got to watch Zach Bush do a level 4E. And all I remember was you sitting in water with this grin on your face. We sat down in water to do meditation. And he was like, I don't want to leave. And I know that's true of you, Richard, that the alone time of being allowed to go in, where once as a child or a young person, it feels so lonely and it feels so empty, empty gets filled once you begin to become familiar that there is no such thing as death. That is really the door. And then it's suddenly like, that's the Scorpio yum yum factor. It feels good. So I'm curious about your egos, the two of you being recognized as you walk through that place. And this is one of yours. And this, how has that affected? Because I know I would suggest, and you guys have to help me, that your gift of receptivity, Zach Bush, you have to put your phone down. You're going to get in trouble.
I'm texting Chelsea because my screen totally froze. So I was just making sure you guys could still hear me.
I love that. I love that. And I love that I got to call you out because that's why we're friends. So back to, I'd love for you to talk about the reduction or the massaging or the softening of your ego. One, to be the receiver, Richard, of your download. And then two, what happens in the public when you guys walk around and there's people noticing you? I'm so curious what is your dance with that whole conversation?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I have, I have a family, and I will always, whenever I come home after being out or about or something, like it's such a reality landing back in the lap of the family, because to my kids, I'm just, a slightly kind of smelly old guy, and they don't see that kind of person that some people put on a pedestal. They just see like, oh, dad's here again. Yeah. And every now and again, also, if I'm out and about, I'll ring up and I'll be talking to my wife and stuff, and she'll always say, so how's your ego doing? And so I really appreciate those grounding people in my life. I have a lot of them. I have a lot of mischievous friends who, like yourself, actually, who are very happy to call me out and just keep reminding me of the edges of life and what's important, and to stay kind of grounded and humble. And so I don't know how you do it, Zach, because you have like your adoration
You're in
is.
trouble, Zach. You have to answer the question, and you have to put your phone down. You're going to get marks, bad marks.
He's obviously worried about freezing. So
We
your
haven't
adoration is really
seen you
off the
freeze yet.
charts.
Yes, we know you get adored. I've walked with him through the streets of Boulder, and we couldn't get past two. I was like, okay, I'm going to stand and watch Zach hug this person because Zach is the best hugger in the whole world. So we'll just stay here and we'll just let Zach. And so the first question I want to ask is about the deep entrance you found about the stillness in contrast to the exercise of your ego being seen in the public.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You'll tell me by my chart better than I know myself, probably, but there's something about my makeup that those encounters almost have the opposite effect of me. Then I never leave an experience like that feeling egoically charged, I guess. I always feel some combination of loneliness and humility that comes out of each and every interaction with people like that, because they don't know who I am. And so that what they're reacting to or what they're trying to hug or whatever they're doing is them recognizing themselves, God within them, all of that. They're projecting something on me. And in the experience of the projection, I feel missed. Like it's clear that they're loving something that's not me. If they knew how mischievous, Richard and I were, they'd probably just not want to hug at all, because like they're seeing something that is of their own making. They've created their own movie that they're watching, they've put Zach Bush in their movie, but it's not me. And so I can feel that very vividly. I don't know what it is in my chart that makes me feel that, but the result is, wow, isn't it so sad that we can't actually connect as humans most of the time? And that's why, like Richard said, it's so rare when you finally find that person that just sees you and has no projection on you and has, complete presence with you. And so I guess my experience has been one of sadness that comes out of all those things that looks like exuberance, like, oh, everybody is hugging Zach. Every single hug leaves me feeling a little bit more in wonderment of the isolation of the human experience.
Okay, so now can I just point to your life lesson? And you're so right. Your Saturn's in Cancer. So I'm going to do both of you. Saturn describes the life lesson of a soul, and it gives you the flavor of what they have to work with throughout their lifetime in the name of kind of wrestling until they get really good at it. And yours is Cancer, which is the sensitivity of the human condition. This is Dalai Lama, double Cancer, holding the emotional body. Oh, who decided that he's not reincarnating because, you know the story? The Dalai Lama has decided not to reincarnate because his answer was the humans didn't learn compassion. It's too hard. That's the ultimate Cancer conversation you just touched, Zach. That when you feel the loneliness or the disconnect in the human condition where they are longing to connect with you, and yet to be seen deeply as Richard sees you is a completely different conversation. So that's your life lesson, the willingness to accept the pain of the human condition and let the tears come forward. Let your emotional body be, and that's why I love hugging you, just to say. I hope I'm hugging the real thing. I make an effort to, when I hug someone, to really stop time. It's an art, and you've got the art. And then, Richard, your life lesson's fire. Did you know this? It's in Aries. So your life lesson is to be pushy and demanding and stand up, and you don't want to. So, but what's interesting is Zach has taken his emotional body and made it, because it's actually very conducive to his Scorpio. Cancer and Scorpio are both water. So this whole lifetime, he's learning compassion. You are learning about being straight, direct, honest, and blunt. How's that going for you?
It's so true because I had such a British conditioning, like I was sent off to boarding school when I was a boy, and I came out very polite and conservative and well behaved, and I've had to break down that kind of the trappings of that ego. And as I said, like I've rediscovered that naughty little boy inside me that can say no. In fact, this year I've been saying no so many times to so many things that people are just like, this guy just doesn't want to do anything.
That is so fun. So this is the life lesson, and you're both on track. But Zach's is clearly about the emotional body and the capacity to feel human, even though I don't think you are. And Richard, for you to be bossy and pushy and straight, it's not even bossy, it's just assertive. Permission to take off the English ego identity and say no. And you're doing it. And you guys, this is in the book. So the simple question is, what's my life lesson? These are simple themes that will never go away for either of you. And it's just like the gene keys. There's a certain set that the cosmic has given. The cosmic envelope comes in, please. And we open up our birthday, time, and place. There's the gene keys, there's astrology, there's the Enneagram, there's human design. You guys, whatever it takes for you to realign so that you can figure out the lesson, so that when you leave here, the two of you are going to go, woohoo! First of all, you're going to be welcomed with, can you imagine how much you two, I want to be the voice of gratitude, that you both agreed to let your eighth house go that deep, that it meant opening in your feminine principle to sit in the empty and receive the downloads and then translate them for us. It's one thing to be able to open and receive and be intuitive. There's a lot of people in this room that have the gift, whether that's meditation or it's dancing or it's athletics or when you're losing your mind, where you're in that still state. It's another thing to make the bridge into words, and yet another to execute it into a book, which all three of us have done. And then to stand here in the name of fire and go, okay, you guys, let's celebrate. Well, Zach's secretly thinking, do you really know me?
Yeah.
I want to really know you. Oh my goodness. This is the deepest conversation. Three little people sitting with the sun in the eighth house talking about, I don't believe in astrology. But Richard, your whole system's based on astrology. So you can't say you don't believe in astrology.
It's so true. And I'm loving answering that question to people. And I have a lot of friends who are like, in fact, just the other night, I had a friend who's a mathematician, like a really advanced mathematician. So he was asking me, and And I get very creative in how I explain and describe, you know, combining the left and the right brains. And one thing I love saying, you know, which you might want to borrow, by the way, if you get someone who's very over logical, I kind of say, look, you know, you've like been working out your left brain so hard for so long. You're like a guy that's gone to the gym and has only worked out one side of his body. You know, so you're kind of this misshapen creature with huge left biceps and a huge left leg and everything, and the right is just wimpy and kind of hanging there. I said, you need to work out the right side of your brain. You need to kind of make some quantum leaps. You need to be more use your intuition. You need to kind of, you know, soften up a little bit. And anyway, it's always a good challenge sometimes to those people to just say, oh yeah, I think you might be right. I'm very fixated on my logic path, and I love logic. But it's also,
That's
it needs
Virgo.
balance, doesn't it?
Yes, yes. I say to people, you don't believe in astrology, but you believe in love, and you can't see that.
Yeah.
And your whole life has been wrapped up in love, and there's no way to touch it. So, ha.
I like explaining it biologically, which is, you know, you don't believe in astrology, but you believe in the tides of the ocean. You know, it just quickly point out, like, if the entire body of 70% of the surface of the planet obeys the cycles of a moon that will wax and wane as it travels around, how much more so would the body of water inside of you have to obey these grand bodies of magnetism and electromagnetic fields and gravitational force? Or perhaps are you so profoundly, you know, sovereign that you actually get to escape the powers of the cosmos that the ocean is subject to? And so I think the obvious thing is, my God, we're a body of water. We are being pulled and yanked all over the place by the movements of Mercury or Saturn, and just as the moon. And to think that we are somehow free of the laws of nature is ludicrous human perception. And it takes such a narcissistic belief that you're somehow isolated from nature, such that it doesn't matter if you treat your planet like shit. It doesn't matter if you poison your water and food system. It doesn't matter if the moon and sun come and go, because you're just so egoically solid and narcissistic that you're just devoid of any of those influences, and you're a free will man doing your thing. Like, it's just the most ludicrous situation once you start to go down that avenue. You're like, how does anybody think they're not being controlled by nature?
Such a great truth. And to so thankful to the two of you, because you're setting the stage for men to be able to cultivate that right side so they're not built up on the wrong side. Thank you so much for the work you two are doing, and the devotion and the unbelievable focus that you both have carried. And that was so wonderful. I had a feeling putting you in the same room was going to be a whole bunch of love, and I was right.
I mean, one thing I'll just warn everybody, when we're talking about getting men to the right side, I made a big mistake for 10 years, which is I fully tried to suppress my masculine. And that's a danger for all of you women in the room, is that you will walk around recognizing the wounded masculine and you will condemn it. And in so doing, you will so harm that individual that they will take them much longer to find their wholeness. And so I would just invite everybody to have grace and mercy on the masculine, rather than try to fix it or try to, you know, judge it into its health. Let us lift the masculine as much as we will release the feminine to be herself, because if we don't allow that to happen, we'll run around with giant right-sidedness, and that's going to be just as lopsided as, and that's what's happening socially right now. To be a white male in the world is actually to be a target. And so whether it's lawsuits or you know, Me Too efforts or whatever is getting thrown at us, and ironically, that got thrown at me from Medicine Festival. Richard and I just like could not have been more hard open than we were that week. And the amount of attack I got in those coming months from a bunch of people in the UK that I don't even know, and they came to just absolutely try to crucify me. And it was so shocking to me, but it's such the story of humans that as soon as we see light, it exposes shadow within me too. And so if I'm going to burn bright, it means I'm going to show you my imperfections. And then you're going to go judge my imperfections because I've shown you so much of myself. That's a ludicrous, behavior that as soon as somebody starts to shine and therefore show you all of their own shadow, then they get judged for the shadow instead of recognizing you would have never seen my shadow if I hadn't opened myself up on stage with you in front of, because I had a love affair going on with this man and his consciousness next to me. And so we've got to stop doing that to each other. We need to stop crucifying each other for the shadow because we would not be human without it. I want to share something about gold. This happened when I was in Osara in Costa Rica. I met a woman who was a goldsmith down there, and she happens to run one of the charter sailboat situations. So I went out on her sailboat and cool little crew, and we were watching sunset out in the ocean off the coast of Costa Rica. And I asked her about the gold. She was covered in it, and I was like, what's with the gold? Like, I mean, she's like, oh, I'm learning how to be a goldsmith, and I'm doing this stuff, and I said, well, what's the most fascinating thing that you've learned about gold? Because I think that it's got biologic properties and was used by ancient Egypt, and I'm fascinated by what you might know about that. And she said, I don't know anything about the biology of it, but I know I feel like I can go into spiritual ascension easier when it, and had a very cool answer to that. And she said, but the coolest thing I know about gold is that I had been asking my master goldsmith that I was learning from, and I asked him, why can't I buy 100% gold? Why can I only buy 99.9% gold? It seems like if we can refine it down to 99.9%, we might as well go to 100%. And her master goldsmith laughed and he said, that's a ridiculous premise. Gold is the mineral manifestation of light. What makes it solid is its imperfections. And I burst out crying in that sunset, realizing that was me. I am a light being that has become solid because I chose to take on imperfections. And if I really purified myself to 100%, I would no longer be here with you because I would no longer be human. And so let me show you my imperfections and let me let you glory in those imperfections because it's what makes me visible and physical and it's what allows me to give you a hug. So stop damning me for my imperfections and honor my imperfections, for that's what I took on. I put on a mantle of imperfection so I could move from light being to physical manifestation of human. And so honor my imperfections, honor my willingness to take on who I am. And who I am is a mantle of imperfection. And honor that and witness that. And let me show it to you. And I'm going to burn brighter so you can see it even better. And the moment you try to put me on this pedestal and make me your personal Jesus, I'm going to show you more of my mischievous. I'm going to show you more of my flaws. I'm going to show you more of the imperfections in me, unless you make me into something too bright and I disappear. I'm going to stay human for a little longer, so I will not let you turn me into a light being yet. I'm going to honor my own imperfections. I'm going to hold on to that.
Wow. Thank you, Zach. Spoken from all the humans on this planet that long to be who they are, to truly be seen in all the colors. Such a privilege to be alive at this time, to be sitting in cyberspace listening to wisdom. Never before could we cross continents, sit in a room with hundreds and thousands of people, and share the updated wisdom to bring in a new world. That's what we're doing. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad I'm sitting next to you. I feel so blessed. Thank you.
Amazed by the whole thing. I just calculated this. I know I'm always getting yelled at for being on my phone, but I was so curious. I have to calculate this. Richard, I have come up with the fact that we are 6,569 kilometers away from each other right now. But by the grace of God, we sat down in rooms that have similar backgrounds and the same wall color. So it looks like we're sitting next to each other. So if you lean to your left a little bit, I'm going to lean to my left and I'm going to kiss you and let's see what it looks like.
But that way.
Oh my goodness, it's the cutest thing I've ever seen. You guys, did that just happen? Aw, thank you both. Thank you both. All the love in this room across time and space. And of course, your Aquarius rising, Zach, can do exactly what he wants. That's what we're built for in astrology. Permission to be yourself. Everyone else is taken. Aloha. Mwah.
Thank you so much, Richard and Zach. Okay, Deborah, what a beautiful
I
transition.
feel slightly drunk. I don't even know what happened.
What a beautiful transition into talking about the 13th sign.
Oh my goodness. Can we just take a moment? That was so beautiful. This is such an advantage to be able to gather people together under the disguise of, oh, I really want you to go buy this book. Oh, I have a better idea. Let's just sit in a circle together for a whole week and talk about the most meaningful topics by people who exemplify light and love and wisdom. And then it becomes contagious. And then you all get that and you start learning how to put your mind in its seat and actively choose to bring in your higher self in the format that you're in. And there it is, the last chapter. Oh my goodness, I love it so much. Are you ready for me to read? Can we stop for a moment and I'll just read a part of the chapter? Do you know the part of you that's eternal and was so willing to take on the human plight? The party that loves every single aspect of this experience, the party that slides willingly into eternity, leaving behind your form with no desire to draw lines of separation or even speak with words. A floating decimal point, a wave, a particle, it doesn't matter what you call this place. The 13th sign is the part in all of us that stays as far away from human understanding as it can get. Surely you know its opposite, your ego. It's been described in detail. You know the part of your mind that longs to be special and different and identified, sitting there right now in this room, absorbing and learning. While I love that part of you, it compelled you to come to this gathering. That's not who I'm talking to. I'm talking about the unconditional love in you that never stops and is just waiting in the wings to be activated. I feel like a Secret Service agent. Like I'm taking you into astrology. I'm using your ego as the doorway. I want you to study who you are and become conscious and aware of that where your life lesson is, Saturn. Where is your Mercury? And then come with me in the back room. Let's be naughty. Let's leave the ego behind and remember who we are as a physical practice, a daily practice. And from that point of view, what happens is kindness arrives, sweetness arrives, breath, patience, trust, radical, radical trust. Trust that this whole thing is working out, though the mind sitting over there doesn't get it. I love that Richard Rudd has 5 planets in the 8th house and wrote the Gene Keys. You guys have to go look it up. It's this unbelievable channeled book. And I love that Zach Bush has been this doctor across time who's working on healing the planet Earth through a biome. He figured out you got to go look these 2 men up. And I love that I could introduce them to you. And that is what the 13th sign is. It's the delight and the joy and the humor of realizing we are in a movie. And once you get onto the right rhythm, once you're following the 4 elements, the magician and the tarot deck, once you start to really reclaim your memory, oh, I remember I wanted to come here. I had to do a very specific moment in an eclipse about 8 years ago where I said, I'm unpacking on planet Earth. I'm not complaining anymore about this place. I'm going to live here, follow the guidelines brought to you by the 4 elements, and make my life into a beautiful piece of art. See what lives behind my head? Okay. So the low road of the 13th sign is too much psychedelics, too much medicine, too much getting high, escapism, delusional, thinking you're meditating, but you know you're not. The people that pretend they're spiritual, but they're bypassing. You just suddenly feel like you're sad, but you don't want to tell anyone. You're really angry, but you act nice, and then you end up getting pissed off in the car and you give them the finger. That's the low road. We have to admit that our spirituality can really be a mask of pretense rather than honest, authentic human. And the high road of the 13th sign is you know you're there because the non-attachment, the Teflon feeling, like, okay, so my heart got broken and I had to go through that era of letting my heart break and be human and be broken. And then all of a sudden the 13th sign kicked in and suddenly I was not attached and I knew how to forgive and let go and give thanks and remember I'm in a movie and the flow begins. And then life has her way with you and you end up in the right job or you end up with the right person or you end up single or you end up with that dog that showed up or that little kitten that's cuddling with you. All of that is indications you're in the flow. Your observer's on, there's an awareness. But as soon as the heart drama breaks and the drama starts and the internal dialogue and the tension in the body and the frustration, that's when, uh-oh, somewhere I got stuck in the story and I don't know how to turn it off. And that's the first half of my book. The awareness of the design fault brought to you by your sign. No, there's lots of people, that's a great question, Melissa, who are doing lots of psychedelics, and I believe in the altered states. It's only when it's used as a crutch and we do it again and again and again, and under the system, under the hood, the human dimension did not get changed. It was just a chance to pretend we were spiritual. So there's a big difference between the shaman who is integrity, that would be Asher Ruiz, where he never does the medicine, but he gives it out, compared to the people in the world who indulge, and you know who you are, that just can't seem to come back to reality with full commitment and paying attention to the simple request of a day-to-day schedule, timing, money, respect, friendships. These are all the clues you're on the right street. So let's talk about the life lesson of the 13th sign. I didn't even know there was one, but here's what it is. The life lesson of the 13th sign is simply radical trust. I want to just challenge all of you in this room. It's just like me right now. You can only imagine. I'm about to, in 2 days, is it? No, in 5 days, the book comes out. I'm going to be going to book signings. I'm so excited about it. And there's a challenge at the entrance of any business project where we're sitting in a room like this, or we're working with the publishers, or we're going on a book tour, or you're looking at your likes, or all that outer world ego identification, which is really important to measure the reality. That's hard reality. And then there's another spot that you can go to that I'm living in called radical trust. I want to give it to you. And how you get there is that you just practice. I've told you this so many times, 5 minutes, 5 short minutes in a simple state of either open-eyed meditation where you just receive the moment, looking around, seeing the beauty, seeing the mess, seeing what is without judging it, and then dropping straight into calm. And when there's radical trust, I know it's annoying for some people. I have so much trust in you guys. If you saw how I rode my bike, or you saw how I lived my life, you would say to me, you are way too trusting. The only thing I know is I don't trust people. I mean, you have to be silly to think that the human condition is trustworthy when it has a natural built-in faculty that can hurt, that can reject, that can abandon, that can judge, that can violate. That's all human. So I'm not saying trust that. You can trust the human condition is wonky. What I know is radical trust is that my energetic body knows how to stop time, to take a breath, to forgive. And that's the 13th sign. I don't know why, it just always makes me smile. It's almost like suddenly you got the secret. You came off the stage, you're in the witnessing cab, you're up in the stage watching from the balcony. You're not captured by your own story, which allows the thought, the calm. I want to give you an example. I'm trying to think of a concrete example, but the best example for me is this whole 2.5, 3 year cycle of writing a book. It's such a crazy experience, you guys. First comes the dream. Then I resisted it. I didn't really want to. Then came another invitation through a dream. I kept saying no. That's what happens to the ego. I don't want to write another astrology book. It's just one more astrology book. Then came the magic. Someone said something. I found myself someone to write with. I was incredibly, just like you saw the bromance, I had a romance with an incredible woman. She helped cultivate it. Next thing you know, for years, we worked daily, writing. Then we went to the editing. Then all of a sudden I realized I'd written the book, and then the agents came in. I never had an agent. And then came the publishers that all were flirting with me. I didn't even know what to do. They came to each meeting and I was like, what do you do? And he just said, be yourself. I was like, I can do that. Then the book got written, completed, published, and it's coming out in 5 days. And all of that is my opportunity to be in radical trust and to let go. Now, it's not easy. It's just like when our children, they come into our lives, we fall madly in love with them, we put them on our bodies, we sleep next to them, we cuddle them, we take care of them, and all of a sudden they grow up, and then they leave, and then they go to another state, and then they get married, and then you're like, no one prepared. Oh, that's right, radical trust. No one prepared me for all of this. No one tells us. Radical trust, they too have their angels. They do have their, I mean, everywhere in your world, every single human you know. Do you know this, you guys? Every human you know has a guardian angel watching after them. Nobody comes down here alone. You are never, ever alone. And you are being watched. And they are simply appreciating you from the 13th sign without your story and your ego. They're so grateful you incarnated. You took one for the team. You've taken on the human condition. You just can't remember because it's a closed system and the mind gets locked down. I, as an astrologer, am here to open the windows, take you up an elevator, give you an angle a little bit above that picture, look back at yourself and go, what a beauty she is. What a beauty he is. And what a hard life. All those challenges, but you're doing it, and you're doing it live time right now. So thank you. The only reason why I'm here today, said Lana, is because of my angel. That's the truth for everyone. And what I loved what Zach said, there's no end here. There's no end point. You saw these two men talking about getting beneath the veil, said Richard, standing away from the closed system that we're locked down on. Here's the medicine. Be patient. Take a breath with me. And then pray. Give your life over to spirit. You can say it right now. I want nothing more than to be of service to spirit. Use it as your mantra. Take it. Do a devotional prayer every day. Help me. You can ask for help and mean it. And it may take a while, and don't lose your faith, because remember, radical trust. Witnessing the beauty, divine timing for me. I so needed to be here, said Angela. I hope this is coming through beyond my words into your soul, into your cells, into your membranes, so that when I'm not around, and some people, my first book, The Missing Element, they put it under their pillow. Do the same. Put it under your pillow. Know that there's some people in this room who have psychic abilities, who are intuitive, who are dreamers, who have a big right brain, but they got lost because they don't like the world and they don't want to work hard because it seems so unfulfilling and they're not getting paid enough. And there's so many stories to prevent us from saying, I accept this reality just the way it is. Okay, here comes our first participant. John is going to get a read. Oh, there you go. Can I ask for a favor before? Okay, don't go, you guys. I don't want you to leave yet. Will you, if everyone in this room just, I know so many of you have already done it, pre-ordered the book and then upgraded to VIP, because that's where you get my tarot book from. And that's just how they measure the outer world. It's so funny to be talking about the 13th sign and letting go of the ego. And then there's my little picture with my book. And that's the dance of this lifetime, is we mix up substances, we let them blend, the ego and the soul, and that is the beauty of this lifetime. Thank you. Here comes John.
We will have one volunteer for this session, and it is John. Welcome, John.
I saw your name so many times, John. Where do you live?
Honduras. We're here in the coast.
You're in
Caribbean.
Honduras. Wow, you've had a difficult year. Did you just move there?
No, I was born here, but yeah, I know Saturn's in Pisces, so it's been quite a
How-
struggle.
How is it? Has it been hard?
Yeah, it's a lot of instability work-wise, because I'm 46, so it's like you want to do something that you love, so you don't want to be in a job that's like, oh, I don't like this. Not
So-
like when you're young and you're just,
It's such a great point. And there is on this earth right now, one of the hardest things and the most constant things I hear as an astrologer is I'm not in the right job. I can't find what I love to do. And there is something to be said, especially in your chart, because your life lesson's Earth and you don't have any
Yeah.
Earth, you only have one planet. So it does Earth is not a Pisces' favorite place to be.
tall order. I know, right?
It must have been fun for you hearing those men talking about their magical experiences, because you have.
Yes, definitely.
So
All right.
how have you studied astrology? It looks like you have.
Yes, since I was like 12, my mom had a book. She's very Catholic, and she caught me reading this astrologer's handbook. And she was like, "What are you doing with that book?" I'm like, "Mom, it's yours. It's got your name on it." So I've learned so much about it, but there's still so much to learn.
I hope you come take our school. Well, the short answer
Yes.
about your chart is with Venus and Aquarius and Mercury and Aries, you're always going to be an independent thinker. You're the one that doesn't follow. You have such a strong thought process. And then having the moon, like this was the other day, yesterday, see the moon next to Jupiter? That means that you have a very gregarious, happy, you're lucky. There is a positive
Yes.
emotional, you've got a lot of serotonin running in your body. So even
I felt
though
that.
Yeah, and that's your lucky charm. And that's Jupiter. And Jupiter, what does luck mean? Living under correct knowledge that some past lives you were the renegade, the maverick, the person that stood away from everybody. And this lifetime you were like, I just want to learn about practicality. So how's that going? How are you with practical issues?
Yeah, it's hard, but I'm learning because it's like you got to clean the house and organize and raid the closet and think about budgets. And it's like, oh no, I don't want to think about that. But you get a
Okay,
sense of satisfaction
it's so
after.
beautiful. I'm so thankful. This is in the book. You guys, if you just follow your Saturn and you do the practice, in John's case, Saturn's in Virgo, North Node is in Virgo, Saturn's opposite your sun. You've got a lot of Virgo. It's not through, it's only one planet in Earth, but because the North Node is there, you can stop sharing, you guys. This simply suggests, John, that if you would be willing to create a list and structure and follow it, even though you don't.
Yes,
And then you say to life, I'm making this a practice and I want a job where I can generate money and I will work even if I don't like it. That practice, Saturn's always the sign, the indicator of the thing we don't want to do.
true.
But
Yes, I'm willing to do that.
But here's the trick. Yeah, once you become friends with Saturn, it's so crazy. I have discovered that Saturn is the shortcut to success. So your job is to pretend that you whistle when you work, that you love to clean, that you love schedules, that you're willing to make
I
these
do.
little, that's going to make all the difference. And I'm so glad that just seeing you here. And
And
thank
the
you.
North Node too is there.
That's the other clue because that's the shortcut to enlightenment. So you guys, these are all in the book. You're going to learn the shortcuts. And yours is definitely Earth. And I can see the Earth behind you, even though it's fake. It's so pretty.
I got my palm tree there. Got a ground.
Thank you
Yes.
so much, John, for showing up. I
Thank
know
you, Deborah. Thank you, guys.
the whole time. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Okay, Deborah, we have our bonus entry code to share with everyone quickly before we head out. And that bonus code is EMPTY. EMPTY. So we'll bring that up on the presentation and show everyone. So use that code for this session to get 5 extra bonus entries into our giveaway. And then come back and join us at 1 p.m. Pacific today, which is 4 p.m. Eastern. So that's in a little over an hour and a half from now. And we'll have our final live breakthrough
Which
session.
I am so
today.
excited. You guys, this is so crazy. Amanda is the owner of Astrology Hub, which is this unbelievable collection of astrologers from all over the world, and she brings them all together into a school. It's just a membership site. But she and I share such a similar quality of love for astrology. You're going to have an astrology love fest, so be prepared.
We can't wait for it. So enjoy this time with our team. We're going to play some music. We'll be in the chat if you have any questions. Otherwise, we'll see you all back.
Where did Ash go?
Ash is, I think he's facilitating today, so he's not able to join us, but he's here in spirit. So we'll play some music in his honor. And we're sending you all so much love. We'll see you back here at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern for our next live breakthrough session.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I love this with all my heart.
Placed upon the steps, the baby cries, and high above you can hear the church bells start to ring. And the heaviness of it settles in, and somewhere you can hear a mother sing. Then it's one step out on the road. You step out on that road. How much weight? How much? Then it's how long and how far and how many times. Oh, before it's too late. Come on, angel. Come gonna